Hey folks, so it's May 24th, 2026, and this morning I harvested some garlic and I started shooting a video for that, and now I'm going to shoot a different video for sweet potato planting, because when we open space, we like to fill it right back up. Let me show you what we got. So friends, this is bed number one of 5 garlic beds, and then we've got all the potato beds. All of these are going to be coming out over the next few weeks. The garlic beds within the next few days. I may actually take that second one out today and get more sweet potatoes going in there. But this is what we're working with. This is going to be a bed of Covington, with the exception of one plant here in the back. This little stem right there, that's a Stokes Purple. And the reason it's there is because I just pulled a lot of Stokes Purple slips. I had a good sized vine. I tried breaking it down for individual slips. That was the original mother plant, and it had a bit of a root system. And I said, you know what, let me give you a bit of a bed to work in, because I pulled it out of the pot and I wanted to get it into something. So it's going to take that little corner, but the rest of this is all going to be Covington. I'm going to go for probably 2 rows. Yeah, 1 row, 2 row, 1 foot apart. Probably 1 foot, actually probably what, square footish. Probably a foot in between there and a foot down this way. I've got this little tray of 40, and these are all really well rooted out, have been for a while. They've been itching to get into some soil, so today is going to be their graduation day. And if it weren't for that Stokes, these actually might fit in there perfectly. So there might be 39 Covington perhaps, and the 1 Stokes, but I'm absolutely fine with that. I think this is going to be a beautiful bed. They're going in the 23rd today. Gosh, I could probably pull them out in 100, 120 days from now. And that's pretty good size for Covington, and we're going to get a heck of a haul out of that, assuming everything goes well. So let me go ahead and get set up, and yeah, we'll get a few of these planted, show you my little process, which really isn't that complicated, and then we'll get the bed filled out. So being that this morning I just pulled the garlic out of here, the soil is really nice and loose. We've had a ½ inch of rain over the last couple of days. I'm still going to water these in once I put them in, but I'm not going to amend the soil with anything else. I really feel like my organic matter level right now is really high. The garlic was never fertilized and came out nice and big and healthy. I think healthy, save perhaps for garlic mites. I still see a lot of undecomposed and semi-decomposed organic matter in here. So again, they're not going to require much in the way of that, and I definitely wouldn't fertilize these things with nitrogen, because I don't want to push a ton of foliage growth at the expense of root growth. That's just a personal thing. You might be better off, if you're going to fertilize, focusing more on potassium and phosphorus than nitrogen when it comes to sweet potatoes. But since I can't speak overly intelligently to fertilization of sweet potatoes, I'm going to leave that for somebody with more experience to kind of take up that mantle. But for me, I've got my trusty Hori. We've got our tray of sweet potatoes, slips, and these, my friends, were all just simply popped off of sweet potatoes I've got cured in the house. They were harvested last mid-September, probably left in the barn until mid-late October, where they got their warm temperatures, and then they got their cooler temperatures as our temperature here in North Carolina changed, and then they just slowly made their way into the house on our racks inside. And as they've gotten older and the house is now warmed up through the mid-late spring, the heat and the humidity in general going up is waking up the sweet potato energy, and they're starting to throw shoots off. When they do, I throw them into cell packs, they root out, and we've got our slip. And wow, that really is loose. So really all I'm going to do is put this one, so I've got the I can see the Stokes over here. I can measure off of him, and that's about a foot right there. And that's it. That's planted. We're good to go. We're going to head over about a foot in this direction. Again, that's really loose, so I'm willing to bet that there was a garlic bulb right there. Pop that plant in, ready to go. Over on this side, we can just wiggle that back. Same thing. And it might be shy of a foot, because this bed is relatively small, and I'm trying to keep these things about 4 inches off the pathway. They're going to expand out, so that's not going to be anything that I've got to be concerned about. They're going to creep in there to some degree, but if I can keep the bulk of the tubers right in this area here, not in the pathways, then I think we're going to have a nice easy time of this. I don't know how many of these are going to fit in. I'm guessing most of them, but not all. based upon how I measure out. But yeah, I think this is going to be a nice little easy process. After we're done with this, over the next probably 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to be clearing these beds out to my left from the garlic. The garlic's going to be out in the next couple of days. So like I said, I might even pull some of it after this bed's planted and then do more sweet potatoes. And then the actual potatoes are going to come out. I've got my Murasakis and my Stokes. They're trying to root out from stems that I broke down into individual slips. That process is going worse this year than it has in prior years, and I haven't quite figured out why. Doesn't really matter, I still have to give them more time. So the potatoes really aren't in a rush necessarily to get out, but eventually what does survive in my slip creating process does need to go out. So this will be an incremental process. It's going to happen day by day over the next 2 to 3 weeks. But this bed will be easily done today. We're going to throw 1 watering can down each of these rows. It's a 2-gallon watering can, so 4 gallons. We're in a bit of a rain, kind of an overcast rain situation right now in this area. And I'm not worried about the moisture. Today might be the only time I actually water these plants. And then once they establish, I kind of let Mother Nature roll with it at that point. I don't want to oversaturate the beds because we are on clay here. This organic matter is on top of clay. It's been mixed together through the organic process of just working the soil, not from a tillage standpoint, but just pulling roots out, putting plants in. But there still is a very thick layer of clay beneath all of that, that if it gets too wet in there, these could get a little on the rotty side possibly. So I do try to avoid overwatering from that standpoint. But enough rambling now, we're gonna go ahead and get these things in the ground, watered in. And yeah, like I said, since it's still early today, it's about 1 o'clock, we can go ahead and pull the garlic on the next bed over and get the next bed planted. All right, rock and roll. So yeah, I couldn't let the Stokes live there. I had 39 of the 40 planted, and I'm looking at that one saying, it's gotta be a Covington bed. Now that Stokes was just transplanted there yesterday, so of course didn't have a chance to root out. Pulled it out of the ground, put it into a 4-inch square pot, gave it some fresh potting mix, watered in. It's under cover right now with the rest of the Stokes. So it'll sit and it should root just fine. And honestly, it was really just a stem with a pretty good root system. This will give me a chance to see if it actually does throw an above ground shoot system, or has there been too much trauma from the pulling of the shoot system off of it earlier to let it regrow again. If it looks like the shoot system just dies off, then it was actually a good thing that it got out, because that wasn't a waste of space. But as it is now, it'll grow out if it does grow out, and it can join a Stokes bed down the line where it belongs. And so yeah, this is what it looks like now. We got 2 rows of 20, spaced about a foot apart, give or take. Tight spacing-ish, but honestly, that doesn't concern me at all. They should grow out just fine. I did this last year, and actually last year my beds, they were in the strawberry beds last year. The spacing might have been a little wider side to side, but I think last year what I did was I would throw a 5th one right in the middle of like almost a diamond pattern, and I still yielded pretty darn well, despite the fact that was even tighter. So I'm not going to do that this year. I do want to have just the 2 clean rows and not have the chance that it's too tight by having that middle one in the center of them. So I think this is good spacing, and I think it's going to yield just fine. If I could get, honestly, about 2 pounds per slip, I'd consider that a win. And so for this moment, we're going to pause because, like I said, I'm going to get back to the garlic harvest so that I can get back to the sweet potato slip harvest, because we have plenty of slips to go into the ground. Some more mature than others. Some really are root bound, need to get out in the ground. Some are not root bound yet and could use a few more days to push some more root growth out. So having the progression of the harvest of the garlic and the potatoes to allow for the plants under cover to mature is working out really well for me. So sit tight for maybe 15 minutes, and then we'll probably get some more sweet potato slips in the ground. Thanks. Okay, folks, so it's still the 24th. I had it pretty good today. All 5 garlic beds are now cleared. The 5th garlic bed has 4 potato plants in the back and a lettuce plant, so we're not going to get sweet potatoes in there just yet, which is fine. We got plenty of space to plant in the meantime. But yeah, those 3 beds plus most of that 4th that are open. First bed's done. We already did that. The rest of that, we've got plenty of slips, I think, that'll cover those up. So yeah, might as well keep going down that route. I'm gonna keep trying to get about 20 each into the rest of the beds. I think 2 of the beds might be a little wider. I don't think I'm gonna try fitting more plants in there. I mean, I figure the wider spacing may just give bigger yields per slip at that point instead of jamming more in there. I'd rather get the slips that I have across more beds than trying to jam too much in one. I don't know why I'm thinking that way. That's just the direction I'm thinking. So yeah, with that, let's go ahead and get some more slips out of the greenhouse up to the garden, and let's get planting. I think it's really cool to think that just the little effort that I put into those first 2 beds, there's 80 slips in there, 40 per bed. I mean, if things went really well, it could be what, 160, 200, 220 pounds of sweet potatoes come 3 or 4 months. It's a pretty good feeling. All right, folks, I'm whooped. But all the garlic's out, and every sweet potato slip that has space in the garden is now in. We got 194 in, 40 each for the first 4 beds and 34 in the 5th bed. Let's take a look. Now from this angle, it really doesn't show much just because they're small plants. Some are further along than others. Some had very visible root-bound roots that were damn near dry, which isn't good, but they'll recover just fine now that they've been watered into the soil here. And some had, I guess I must have newly stuck them, pulling them off of sweet potatoes inside, put them in the potting mix, because the brick of potting mix held together, but when I pulled it out, some of them I actually didn't even see any roots on, but the foliage growth told me that there's still something going on in there, so I did transplant them. Again, everything for the most part that is in okay shape in a pot seems to do really well once it actually gets in contact with some good soil and some rainwater and some sun. So I've very little doubt that even these that are nice and lush color-wise, and then these that are kind of pale and rinky-dink, they're going to wind up probably in the same place in the long run. And the cool thing about having this little video diary is the fact that we'll be able to prove it in the end. When you have a bed like this one that is a little smaller, but the spacing is relatively similar to some of the wider beds, but the plants are all more mature looking, and then you get a bed over here where all of those guys are small, even with more spacing, the end result's probably going to be similar. So truth be told, I'm not quite as far along with my sweet potato slips as I thought I was going to be at this point, primarily because my Mirasakis and my Stokes, and even my Covingtons, the ones where I took the full vine and broke them down for individual slips, I'm not getting nearly the rate of success I've had in the past. So I'm a little uneasy with that. I do have other Covingtons that are smaller right now that I've got potted up that I'm waiting to take off. As long as everybody gets in the ground by June 15th, I think I'm in good shape. So, I mean, that still gives me almost 3 weeks. And with that time, I mean, I think it's legitimately 3 weeks. So 21 days, if I have another couple hundred small ones in there that are trying to get going, on the Covington side, and some of the Stokes and Mirasaki really step up their game, then I should have enough to cover these 14 beds. And if I don't, then I don't. I can still actually pull some off the potatoes inside, which I have been doing, because again, 3 weeks with those in a pot, they're going to show roots. 90 days in the ground, June 15th to September 15th, they're still going to produce. So we're not at a hope yet, but I've got to look back and figure out kind of where I went wrong with some of my more tried and true practices, because I kind of got caught by surprise. No big deal. Video's on pause for now because this is going to be one big comprehensive sweet potato plant out, so sit tight. We'll pick this up in probably a couple weeks. It is June 1st, and we are going to plant more sweet potato slips because just about an hour ago I finished taking out our Yukon Golds from bed number, I think it's bed 15. The numbers make sense in my head. It's on the west side of the garden between the asparagus bed that is established and the okra bed that is now in process. It was a wider bed that had, I think, 47 Yukon Gold plants in there. And I think I'm gonna put at least as many sweet potato slips in there. I've got one tray in there, and the cell pack is small. The cells are small, and they've been there for a while, so some of them really don't look that great. Most of them look good. A few of them don't. I still think I'm gonna try to throw them all out there, and just they'll all take. They really just need to get into soil. So today we're gonna be doing that as just a continuation of this video. This is the pack I'm talking about. It's a 1206, so 6 by 12, and there's 3 in there that I can see, 3 or 4 that look really, really small, but I just check them out. They do have roots, and I think there's about 50 in here in total. So yeah, we should be able to put them all in that bed. Undoubtedly, the biggest challenge to this whole process is the fact that we still just don't have rain in this area. I think from the snow we had back in February until now, we've probably had a total of 2 inches of rain, maybe 3/4 of an inch last week. We were scheduled for closer to 2 inches about 3 or 4 days prior to that, but every day we got closer to the start of the rain, they revised the forecast lower and lower until the actual just came in at 3/4 of an inch. So yeah, not good. It's dry, but and the problem is, the continued problem is, there's no relief in there. Like, I look at the 10-day today. A few days ago, today was supposed to be a 50% chance, and now it's 0% chance at 85 degrees. So tomorrow we're gonna get 75, and then it tunes right back up into the 90s for a few days with absolutely no cloud over top and no rain in the forecast. And this is the bed they're gonna live in. Like I said, asparagus over here, okra over there, sweet potatoes here. This was Yukon Golds. Those are the other Yukon Golds. Bed's about 3 feet wide. I think we're gonna do 3 rows in this thing. May do a diamond pattern to where we have, 1 row, and then start the other row in a little bit for the middle on the way down. Haven't really thought about it, haven't thought it through. I'll probably just do the outside rows first and see where that leaves us. I think my spacing is going to be pretty consistent with what I have over there. Roughly a foot or maybe an inch short of a foot in between each one running down this way. I'll probably start in about maybe 6 to 8 inches off the corner in. And yeah, let's get set up and rocking and rolling. So we got 16 and 15. One of the biggest challenges, I got a lot of challenges it looks like right now. The slips are relatively small. This bed had the Yukon Golds in there, and what I did to kind of protect the golds during a late March frost, if I believe, was I took a good solid inch or two of semi-decomposed compost, and I covered the whole bed to make sure that the plants didn't get burned by that frost. They got burned by later ones when they were much bigger plants because we had heat after that frost. Then we had frost and heat and frost and heat. Another story. But that means a lot of the top matter here is that loose, not quite composty stuff that doesn't really hold together well. So it's not a great planting surface to just drop a plug in because I really can't get down to the firmer native soil. Again, I think they're going to root fine if they can stay relatively damp, which is another problem because of the water shortage we have right now. But if those feeder roots can tap into the clay, the more loamy clay that I've been building the last few years, if it can tap into that within the next few weeks, water's not going to be a problem. That holds water beautifully. I'll be able to water very intermittently, only when absolutely necessary to keep them going in their earlier life, and they'll be fine. I just need those first few weeks to go really well. And since this is a comprehensive sweet potato plant out video that's been going on for a while, let me show you something else that happened. Yeah. This was a Yukon Gold bed as well. Now, I had a video earlier posted about a month ago where I took some sweet potato slips and I put them in a raised bed, a small raised bed outside of the garden. It got popped by deer, so it was 32 plants. There were 32 plants in that bed. 26 made it over here. 6 made it into bed number 5. And since I've got you here, let's go ahead and take a look at those beds as well, because I haven't actually looked at this video since I planted those beds. I'd be curious to see when I throw this clip onto the end of that video what those plants look like now. From this angle, probably not a whole heck of a lot of difference, but I can tell. So down this row, I said bed 5, there's 6 of those that got stumped from the outside garden. They're in here now. But I'm quite sure I didn't have any plants that robust in the first part of the video. And I'm actually taking some compost, semi-finished compost that I've got in bay 4, and I am top dressing these beds because when I pulled the garlic out of here, a lot of the organic matter and the soil kind of mixed together, came to the surface, and through that I kind of want to just get it covered up. I want to make that bed, for example, look like this one. This has been covered, this one's been covered, those 3 need to be covered, and I'll feel better about their ability to just continue to cycle nutrients by adding more organic matter to it, but also for every area that the roots are going to penetrate into, another inch of organic matter on top is going to help keep everything underneath damp for when I am able to get some hand watering out here, or if we one day actually get a little bit of rain. But yeah, I think these plants are showing quite a bit bigger now than they did in the first clip of this video, which I have no idea what date that is. It'll be interesting to tag this one on to the back side of that and see where we're at. But I think I'm going to leave you here for now, and next thing we're going to pick up, all the rest of those potatoes are going to come out, and then we're going to see. We had a lot of problems with the Murasaki and the Stokes propagation method this year, so I'm going to probably have more Covingtons than planned on. I'm still actually popping Covington slips off of my potatoes inside so that I can root them out and have them out in time. I don't want to actually have to transplant anything after June 15th. That's kind of my drop dead date. So whatever I have at that point, I have. Any bed that doesn't have enough slips, it'll get something else. So folks, this bed is still in play. This is the last one we did until I decided to clear off some of our Pontiac red beds. So this one is now done. And that one is now done. And then that one we're about to do right there. And I'm actually taking some of my cell packs that I have, I say cell packs, old tofu containers that I punched a hole in the bottom of them. I filled it with potting mix and I transplanted, I stuck 4 slips from the sprouting potatoes inside. And I stuck them kind of in each corner, and I'm popping them out, breaking them up, putting them in there. And these were all done that way. And that whole bed was done that way. And it all seems to be taking. I only put 1 watering can down each one. I'll do the same thing for the next one over. We're still dry as can be right now. But yeah, those slips are tough as nails. So moving on down the line, I have a feeling we're definitely going to be a very orange sweet potato heavy. The Murasaki and the Stokes propagation has gone really terribly this year. But luckily I do have a lot undercover for the oranges. So the 14 bed goal, even though it's not going to be distributed between Stokes, Covington, and Murasaki the way I wanted it to, we're still going to get all 14 beds full. And that's really the most important thing. All right, sweet potato folks. Oh boy, it's hot out here. We've cleared more potato beds. I got 3 more beds to fill up with sweet potatoes. These here are 6 of the Murasakis that were used to get my cuttings that failed so miserably, but the source plant's still good. We've got, I think, 6 or 7 more undercover. We're gonna go ahead and put those into bed. I think this is 9. Let's find out. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is bed number 10. So bed number 10 is going to be Murasaki. We may or may not have enough slips to cover some of bed 11 as well. I'm gonna have some bed mixed and matched a bit between either Stokes and Murasaki, or Stokes and Covington, or Covington and Murasaki. I don't know what it's going to be yet. I think we're going to move Covington in this direction as well. So in here is probably going to be like 8, 9, 10 will be these other varieties. But right now we're going to go ahead and get Murasaki set up in this, get them watered in best we can because we're still in drought mode. But yeah, let's get this one started up, and we'll keep the train rolling along. So until next time. Hey folks, so today is the 16th of June 2026, and the final day of my great sweet potato slip plant out. This process has not gone the way I thought it was going to go, primarily because the Murasaki and the Stokes did so poorly. Stokes atrocious, Murasaki bad, Covington fantastic. Let me show you what we got. Now, we are not done yet, and I do not remember the date we kicked this video off when we pulled the garlic and started putting sweet potatoes in, but we can already see we've got quite a bit of vining growth going on here, already spilling out of the bed into the pathway on all 5 of these first 5 of these beds. And these were all garlic. Now, as we go further down, again, we've got all these are Covington, which is an orange sweet potato. I believe it's Covington, not Beauregard. I'm kind of tossed up about which one it is. I think Covington was actually developed from Beauregard, but they say it stores better, and the ones I have in the house right now are going on 9 months out of the ground, and they're still perfect. So it tells me if storage is one way to sort of judge them, then it's probably Covington. Again, if not, it really doesn't matter to me. It's just a delicious orange sweet potato, but you know, for the sake of trying to understand what I have, I like to kind of know, but if I don't, I don't. And then we got Stokes, and this is just an epic fail. We got a handful of okay ones in the front. I don't want to talk about it. It just didn't go well, and I have to troubleshoot that. Murasaki had a little more success on that one. These are actually Murasaki. They were the mother plants that I had that I was trying to get slips off of. But what I'm going to do with this one is in the back half of this bed today, we're going to put in some more Covingtons because I have the room for them. As we continue down, we've got more Covingtons through here, all the way into that bed, and then we've got okra over here, which is stepping up nicely, and then we have a gap over to Covington on this one. This bed's giving me a little bit of fits. I had to replace a few plants here and there on that one. I'm not quite sure why. I would have expected a little bit more strength, but no such luck. Now, what else do we have going on for sweet potatoes in the garden that wasn't really planned the way I wanted it to be? Again, I haven't reviewed my edited footage so far, so I may have already talked about this. This is the small raised bed. I originally installed it a couple years ago thinking I was going to put carrots or parsnips in there that needed deeper tapping. The bed that I had outside of the garden for sweet potatoes that I was going to donate later in the season got hit by deer, so I moved all 32 plants in the garden. 26 went into here. So that is now a sweet potato bed that I've got to do a little bit more watering on because it's raised up a bit and we're in drought, so that's not doing so hot. We also have tomatoes. Tomatoes got ripped out of these two beds. They got hit by the potato beetle. They weren't going to produce in time for the heat wave that we've got coming up. So my tomato this year is going to be horrendous. I'm not worried about it at this point. I can get over it. So we have more sweet potato beds because I have plenty of slips. These are a little bit more yellow. They were in a different cell pack than these guys, and they, for some reason, didn't have enough nutrition. But again, give them a week and a half. They're going to be greened up and taken off just fine. I'm not concerned about that. Just got to stay on top of the water. But that really makes literally, gosh, 33% of my garden beds in this garden are now sweet potato slips. I've been using these old mushroom containers from Aldi, and this one I didn't put drain holes in it. And I think I might have had tiny plugs that I actually put into this just to kind of pot them up, or I actually stuck straight up slips in them to root them out. But these guys did pretty darn well. Those are 4 really healthy ones. So let's see what they've got going on underneath that. They're a little dry, I can feel it right now, but kind of hard to argue with a root system like that. So we can go ahead and plant this out just by breaking these apart nice and gently as best we're able. They're going to have a little bit of transplant shock from this, I can tell you that right now. But we'll get them watered and nice and deep, but there's a plant. And all I've got to do, you see how dry this is? We're so in trouble right now from a water standpoint. We'll get him nice and deep in there. And I'm probably going to go ahead and well him out a little bit, just so that when I water him, the water can find its way in. Water will move, up and down and left and right as well to find its spot. It kind of migrates from the wetter spots to the drier spots over time. But just to make sure that he gets some direct contact, we're going to put him in like that. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this bed out right now, water it in, and then we can call sweet potato slip planting 2026 done, despite the fact that I still have probably 70 to 100 slips under cover. And with that, we now have all of our beds that are now designated for sweet potatoes fully planted and ready to go. Now the biggest question is, can we keep the pressure on the water, because we are still in record drought mode and nothing but 90s and no rain in sight. So every morning I'm running out here with watering cans and trying to hit the beds as best I can. I have to kind of spot pick which beds I'm going to go because we're still pulling water from the house well. And yeah, we just had to replace our well pressure tank, so that wasn't much fun. So try not to stress that system too much, but we're gonna, once these guys get established, so for example, sweet potatoes are relatively drought resistant once they get going. In my limited experience, I'd be surprised, looking at these guys right here, the ones that are vining, I may hit them one more time with, 2 watering cans down each of these rows, maybe in about 3 or 4 days time. And then I might call it at that point and tell them, you know, at this point you've got to go find your own water. I can't keep helping you out because I don't have the water to give them frequent deep waterings. And I may just let them go at that point and see what they do. Yeah, if they go really, really limp, I'll go ahead and hit them with some water to kind of bring them back to life. But I think they're gonna, once they get enough moisture down there into the clay beneath the organic matter, they usually do pretty well about keeping going. And that's Sweet Potato 2026. Between the 17 beds I have, I didn't hand count all the plants that I have in there because some of my rows are different. I've got some plants in between plants, blah, blah. End result, I'm estimating that I've got over 600 plants in the ground across these 17 beds. If I can get 2 to 3 pounds of sweet potato per bed, in total per plant, I'm getting 1,200 to 1,800. So yeah, that should be a pretty good haul of sweet potatoes at the end of the season, and probably more than what my wife and I need. So we'll definitely be in a position to donate some, and that's really one of my goals this year, was to do a good bit of donation of things that people have an interest in. I found out early on people aren't interested in turnips, so I'm gonna keep more of them for myself. But they're gonna like the carrots and they're gonna love the sweet potatoes. So in the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to chat below. I'll be happy to answer. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.